Hello and welcome to today's video. This time we'll be tackling another 100 books from that recent Penguin haul. This time it's going to be the first 100 Puffin Story Books. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Right then, so these aren't in order. They are as they've sort of come out of the box, and this one actually, as the first one out of the box, doesn't seem too bad at all. These are the first of the Puffin storybooks that I've got around to cleaning from this collection, so I'm quite glad of the change of pace, since we've got many more main series Penguins to do, of course, you know. So but yeah, I've always loved these Puffin storybooks, and some of them really are very beautiful indeed. They do vary, but they're all part of the Penguin story. And certainly I'm not crazily collecting Puffin stuff, but I've got a fair bit of it. And the main sort of Penguin series has always been my priority, but I have these 100 here. I've got every one of the first 100, most of the second 100, and then a fair bit of 300 to 400. The collection I bought back from Matt is the first 400, which is about when ISBN started coming in. So I've got a little bit of books after that, which I will get cleaned up, because there may be people interested in those, but my cutoff is sort of around the number 400 for me. But there's some good stuff in that period, you know, and we're missing number 1, and we're missing number 161, which is The Hobbit, because Matt is selling those separately on eBay. And The Hobbit was perhaps the best copy of that I think I've ever seen. It was an absolute beauty, really nice. This is the first one with some tape on. So we've seen plenty of tape on the regular main series, and evidently there's going to be a bit on these. We'll just have to see how we get on. See how vigorously Alan decided to repair them, I suppose. But we'll get them looking as good as possible. The thing to remember with Puffin books is that, you know, these books were designed for youngsters. So some of them, they're bound to be in a lesser condition than some of the adult main series books. We just have to be prepared for that, really. But it does mean trying to get them in nice condition is an even harder task, because basically you're looking for books that children ideally didn't read. They had the book, or it's a copy of a children's book that wasn't actually read by a child. That's ideally what we're looking for, but you know, they're obviously going to be a little bit more thin on the ground, as it were. Once again, we won't be able to polish any of these. They've all got sort of like matte finishes on them, which are really nice, actually. Really beautiful books. It's a shame. I think that was a nice copy of that, but yeah, sadly, it's got that little bit of child's colouring inside there, which it does actually come off, at least some of it. I think it was a youngster putting their initials in or something like that. Or maybe they were 12 years old. I think it might have been a 12, as in I am 12. It does look a little bit better, I suppose, because on the face of it, that's a really nice, beautiful copy of that one. And so many of these have got like wraparound covers. This is another example of one. And you just don't really get these. Look at this. You don't really get these on books these days. I mean, someone would have had to have been commissioned to produce that beautiful artwork. I mean, it may have come from the hardback, but it's not unlikely. Puffin generally did their own covers. They didn't pinch a hardback jacket. And that for me is where Puffin is so nice, is when they do stuff like that, you know. This is an ex-library by the look of it. Yeah, that's a pen, sadly. So on the outside, quite a nice copy, but on the inside, yeah, it has some faults, sadly. Here's another one with some sellotape on. Now I cut my my thumb, my very important thumbnail last night. I cut my fingernails and I had to leave this thumb slightly longer than usual, simply because I know I've been pulling off loads of tape lately, so there was a reason behind it. What I tend to do with these is slip a book underneath like that, so we've got a firm surface to rub on. This one also is just starting to come away, so I'm going to put a line of glue in here. First time using the glue today, so it's going to be stubborn until it starts flowing. There we are. Yes, certainly a little bit the worse for wear, but someone might want it. I mean, it's fairly, I said this is one, number 71, it's part of the first 100. I'm moving on to some slightly earlier ones now. That one's okay, rusty staples, but it's part of the course for some of these. My Friend Mr. Leakey, Gloucester, 16th of June, 1972. There we are. I don't know if that one is as good as we can get him. And there's another copy of this one, so we're seeing double. So we ended up getting a duplicate. There's a few that are duplicates out of the entire run. Not many, but there are a few, you know. Okay, and these ones here, of course, were wartime ones, so really, really thin paper in that. They're not like the later ones, which are a bit more robust. But when you think these were being produced at all during wartime, I mean, it's amazing, really. All right, so we've got a bit of tape. Looks like it's had a sticker of some sort removed. I think what you find with some of these is that they didn't sell at their original price. So a Penguin rep would go around and reprice the books, and he put them up to the current price, just so they remained current. You'd think if the books hadn't sold to begin with that they would just leave them at the lower price and someone would just get a bit of a bargain when they went in the bookshop, but that was not to be. One and six. Very thin one, this one. Story of a Lynx. I guess for an even younger audience than the normal Puffin Story Books. And later on, these particular sorts of books would be published in B format, of which we've actually got one today, which I think is Puffin 100, is in the larger format, B format. Now I feel I need to pop a little bit of glue in that little bit there at the top of the spine. Just a little squidger. There we are. A little bit of excess, which will dry clear. There we are, lovely. A Woman Among Savages. Okay. Don't remember this one. A couple of bits of tape again. I'll have a look at that in a mo. 5th of January 1973, Gloucester. Okay, we'll leave that as is. Second Wurzel Gummidge book, Wurzel Gummidge again. This was bought 11th of August 78 in Hay-on-Wye. Quite like the Wurzel Gummidge books, I quite like them. I remember loving them as a kid. I don't think they've got the same sort of attraction nowadays. I don't think kids are being excited by Wurzel Gummidge anymore. Sadly. Yeah. Tarka the Otter. Okay. A little mark on the spine. Fairy Tales from the Isle of Man. Nice one. And there is an edition of this that was produced just for the Isle of Man, but it was for sale there, but it came out like about 8 years later, I believe. But Puffin did print it with a slightly revised cover on it, as I recall. The Hutman's book. The Hutman, as seen on the BBC. Well, not by me. Quite a worn one, this. Yes. Book in need of some TLC there. Lovely. Dieter's Tree. That's only dusty. Dieter's Dusty. 4th of April 72, Southport. Yeah, definitely going to benefit from a brush, this one. It's really dusty. Rest of it's okay, that, but really dusty. And this is a favourite of many people, actually, the King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table. This is one of a few books that were done by a chap called Roger Lancelyn Green. And Roger Lancelyn Green had a few books published of historical nature, published by Puffin. And he was highly regarded in the field. And I'm sure we'll see some more by Roger Lancelyn Green as we go along today. Now, back in the 90s, I had my shop, and there was a time when we bought a vintage Sherlock Holmes collection. So I'm in Plymouth, and there used to be a Sherlock Holmes museum on Dartmoor at a time with the Hound of the Baskervilles. And the owner of that museum was diagnosed terminal. I think it was cancer or something like that. He didn't have long. He had like 2 years to live, so he decided to sell up the museum. So what happened is the contents of the museum, he didn't have time to put it on eBay or anything like that. I mean, this is a good 20 plus years ago. So what he did, he just put the whole lot into a local auction. And we were contacted by the auction house because we had the shop, because there were some Sherlock Holmes comics in there. But I said, well, that's okay, because I knew a bit about Sherlock Holmes and what was what, collectible wise. And I said, well, I'll come down and have a look. And in the end, we ended up we spent our best part of, I don't know, £1,000, something like that, on different lots that were in the auction. And we bought all the comic lots and stuff, but there was some really good. I bought some copies of the Strand magazine and things like this. I mean, stuff you really couldn't believe. But the best thing we found was a load of badges, and I'll get back to those in just a minute. So, carrying on with the Roger Lancelyn Green story. So his son, Richard Lancelyn Green, was a massive Sherlockonian. So huge Sherlock Holmes fan. And I started putting up some of the stuff on eBay, and he ended up buying some of the bits, amazingly. So when he emailed me, I said, "Oh, are you any relation to Roger Lanston Green? Because I remember reading his books as a kid, and he said, yeah, I'm his son. So I sold some bits to Richard Lanston Green, which was pretty cool. Now, if you're so inclined, if you look up Richard Lanston Green on the internet, you will find he is now dead. But when he died, it was like he staged his own death. So what happened was, I think he killed himself and he left clues for the police to try and solve his murder, a bit like a Sherlock Holmes case, if you can believe it. So the story is online. It's on, if you Google Richard Lanston Green, you'll be able to find out the story. So it's like really weird. So I thought that's really odd, right? But that's how these things go. So as I said, we bought a lot of this collection. So one of the things that we got in it were these badges. It was all Sherlock Holmes related pin badges. And it was like there was a pin for each story, like the dancing men, and it would have some dancing men on it. There was a pin for all the different characters, like Holmes, Watson, Mrs. Hudson, Inspector Lestrade. Each character had its own pin. And there was about 100 of them. So what I did, I tried to group them together as best I could. And I put them up on eBay in lots of 10, being a bit stubborn, in lots of 10 badges per lot. And these lots of badges, astonishingly, I mean, we couldn't believe it. They were getting loads and loads of bids. I think I started the lots at about $9.99 for each batch of 10 badges. And most of the lots ended up over £200. And I was like astounded. I thought, wow. And they were all bought by the same guy. So one chap bought the whole lot. I thought, wow, I really can't believe it. And he phoned me. So the next day, he phoned me and he paid for them over the phone. And he said, it was an American guy. And I said, what is the story with these? He said, well, some of those badges, very, very exclusive. They were produced by a Sherlock Holmes Society. In fact, one of the badges said member, and there was only 10 of those produced. So there were some ultra rare ones, which we had no idea about. It was a complete, luck, really. And he said, the badges are supremely rare, and I collect everything Holmes related. In fact, I'm over in London on a buying trip because I live in New York. I'm over in London on a buying trip, and I fly over once every month, go to auctions, and I collect poetry and rare poetry books, and I collect Conan Doyle. I thought, wow, that's amazing. I said, well, I'm actually off to New York next week, so I was due to go off. This is in 2000. So that actually dates it. This is 2000 when all this happened. I said, I'm flying to New York for a week next week. He said, well, do you want to come round? And I said, yeah, all right, I'll come round. This is where we're staying. And I gave the guy through email. I said, this is the chap's number. We get in on this date. Just give us a shout, sort of thing, and I'll come and see you. So I brought them out with me, all these badges, and I said they'd all been paid for. All I had to do was deliver them. And lo and behold, we'd been there for like a day or so, and the phone went, and it was this chap. Forget his name. And I said, yeah, brilliant. I've got them. I said, I found a few more which you can have. He paid so much. And there was a few other sort of minor ones, which I said, look, you may or may not have these, but you can just have them, sort of thing. I said, I'll, you tell me where you are. I'll deliver them. So he said, yeah. So he was on the upper east side, is it? The upper west side, overlooking Central Park. And I found out that the chap, I can't remember his name, but the chap was actually a dermatologist. So he was a skin doctor, very, very wealthy. And I get to his apartment block, and there's like a doorman there who opens the door, and I said, oh yeah, I've come to see so-and-so. And he phoned up. He said, yeah, oh yeah, he's expecting you. Let me show you up. So it's like into the lift, and then he said, when you get out, just turn right and you'll be there. Got out, and there he was, so I don't know, guy in his mid-50s, waiting for me. He said, yeah, come in. And basically his apartment was absolutely incredible. It overlooked Central Park. So you could look out and see all of like Central Park, all the greenery. He had his own like bar. So he said, oh yeah, do you want a Coke? I said, yeah. So he had a lovely cool Coke. And I realized I brought the badges. They were just like in a carrier bag, 2 grand's worth of badges in like a carrier bag. And I I said, "Oh yeah, I got the badges for you," and I looked around and said, "Oh yeah, I'm all ready for them." And he had these octagonal plastic cases with the other badges from the collection, like sitting on little like velvet cushions. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Of course, I pull these things out. They're like in a carrier bag inside a comic bag, all sort of loose, banging around against each other. And I'm blooming like I should have done something to try and like make these look a bit more presentable, sort of thing. But he didn't mind at all. He said, "Oh yeah, fantastic," and he was going through and just explaining all the different ones to me. He said, "Look," and he said, "Look at this one here," and he took it over. This is the one that said member because it was the first one ever done. They only did 10 of it, and he had a spot in his display case ready for it. And I'm like, blimmin' heck, And they said, "Do you want to have a look at my Holmes collection?" I said, "Yeah, yeah," and he had a dedicated room for it. And it wasn't a small room, it was a pretty big room, like someone's living room. And all four walls were floor to ceiling with Conan Doyle books. And it wasn't just Sherlock Holmes, he had all Conan Doyle's other stuff as well. He had like a little bust of Holmes in the corner. And under glass, he had a copy of the Mrs. Beeton's book, which I think was Where a Study in Scarlet, the first ever Sherlock Holmes book, was printed. So that nowadays is like £100,000 book. So he had that one there under glass. And he had some other bits and pieces, some rare poetry, which I didn't know a lot about that, but some absolutely incredible stuff. He said, "Yeah, have a look, pick up anything. Don't feel you can't touch it." So I had a little browse through, and I was going through copies of The Strand and really early ones. It was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Yes, yeah, a very, very interesting collection. But that's not the end of the story. So, so very, very memorable. Sadly, I didn't take any photographs. I wish I had. I'm on the way back. So I'm on the way back from JFK to Heathrow, and I'm going through the airport. And, as always, I would always do, I'd stop in like the newsagents and the bookshops and look at what was on offer. And it was in one of the newsagents, and it was on the cover. I think it was on the cover of something like Time. It may have been Time magazine, or it may have been something else that is quite a well-known and established magazine, maybe the New Yorker, something like that. And I spotted this thing, and it was The Strange Case of Richard Lanson Green. I thought, what? What the hell's that? And that's when I read about him faking his own death and how his collection was so important. And I think he lived in Preston, and Stephen Fry had gone in to try and save the collection for like the local museum, because Stephen Fry's a big Holmesian. Just incredible. And this had all happened off the back of this bloody collection. I literally couldn't believe it. So there you go. That is a true story. And that all came about because we looked at his dad's book by Roger Lansing Green. So there you go. I thought you'd find that quite interesting. But yeah, one of those sort of unforgettable adventures, really, that. Yeah, I never forget those badges, though. I wish I'd even saved just some pictures of them, really. I would recognise them again, but they were like little enamel pin badges. Nothing overly special, but when you got them all together as a collection, that you realise that each one represented a different story and the different characters and locations. They did take on something a bit more special, and you could see the attractions, shall we say, So yeah, so good stuff, really. Oh, glue all over me. All the excitement you see, it's the excitement of telling that story. Right, the Puffin puzzle book. Back to reality here. Now, this is in a bit of an old state. I suppose if we can clean the covers up, it'll be okay. Unless there's loads of writing inside, of course. It is a puzzle book after all. And like some of the crossword books that we've seen in the main series lately, often you get a few puzzles or a few crosswords attempted. So it may well be the case with this one that some of the puzzles have actually been attempted. And all we can do is at least get the covers looking as nice as possible, even if we can't get the whole book looking really juicy. I feel we've done a pretty good job there, first time round. All right, it's a little bit more here. It's a little bit deeper. So, how bad is it inside? Well, in actual fact, not bad at all. So, I don't know if this is a scarce one or not, really. I don't think any of them are that scarce because they're not mega collected. That's the thing. It's not like, even though they're early, it's not like the Penguin Crime or something like that, where you've got lots and lots of people collecting it and the prices have been really driven up. These are still in the realms of just a few pound each, you know. So they do represent excellent value for money. 12.5p on the front there. Tape on the back as well. A small piece of the back cover is missing there, only a little bit. This one was bought in Blackpool in 1972. Sunny Blackpool, eh? Went there myself, I think about 8 or 9 years ago. It was all right. The fun fair was brilliant. You know, the Blackpool Pleasure Beaches, really great. There's some really vintage roller coaster rides, which I thought were fantastic. One of them, I think it's called like the Gallop. It was like 2 sets, and they're in competition like horse racing. I thought that was really nice. Yeah, I didn't mind a bit of Blackpool. Guess you could say it's very famous for the Tower and Strictly Come Dancing nowadays. A bit of fading on this one, a bit of tanning rather. 5p. Oh, and 20p. Double priced. Double priced, double action. But it'll do. That's about as good as we're going to get that. A few of these early ones. This, I think, Insect Man is probably the most common of the early ones. And so they do not sell for a lot of money. So Puffin Story Books is quite a fun series to get into if you're a fan of children's books, you know. And certainly I read some of these to my kids when they were growing up, but they just weren't into it as much as I'd hoped. And it was just, you know, like a lot of children today, God, this is in the right state, like a lot of children today, they've got many different distractions, and there's lots of things that can that they would rather be doing in a lot of cases, you know, and that is not reading. All right, let's try and get the bottom of this spine put back on. So sadly, like a lot of kids, yeah, reading is not the priority. But there you go. There you go. Yeah, this was awful, this one. It's the first one that's actually really been affected by taking the tape off, in actual fact. I got it back on in position, but yeah, bit of a shame that. Thankfully, it was the most common one. As I said, it's worth all of £2, that, even if it was really nice condition. They're just not that sought after. Sadly, it's a shame, but they are sort of historical now, aren't they? And your modern youngster is interested in different things to the story of the Insect Man. But I think they've got a charm. Guildford was where this was from. Sunny Guildford. That's okay. That one was okay. That one survived the ravages. Garum the Hunter. Yeah, all these early ones have got tape on, haven't they? Sadly. So you have to wonder why he even bothered putting tape on those, you know. But there you go. And I wonder if the Puffins will be a bit like the main series, where there's less and less tape being applied as the years go on, because the books aren't in such bad condition. They've survived a little bit better, you know. All we will have to do is see, because we've got 4 of these Puffin videos to do, for, you know, 100 to 200, 200 to 300, 300 to 400, still to come. So quite a bit to get through on these. Catching on the corner here. 5p on the top as well. Cuckoo clock. Very, very tanned pages, but generally okay. Cornish Adventure. 5p. Got some tape on the back cover, so I'll try and get the place and date off first of all, carefully, and then we'll unpeel that tape. There we are. This is always a lovely one, the Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and the other really nice one is Through the Looking Glass, which I think is actually even better than this one. But these are very, very big sellers, and they're just, you know, even though it's a lovely edition, they don't go for much. Yeah, just a couple, as I said, just a couple of quid. Even when they're in tip-top shape, they're only about £2.50 to £3 if they're mint, you know. And not many of these are in that department, I think you'll agree. Street Fair. A lot of these have got faults. They are typical children's books. It is as simple as that. Typical condition children's books. Anne was 9 and John was 11, according to this. And quite a bit red, that one. Grimm's Fairy Tales. From Keith White. Did you have to write it so big, Keith? That's what I'm asking you. It's right up to the very edge. Very, very tricky to get into this particular bit. Very, very tricky indeed. Just trying to get as close as I possibly can without having to rub one way. That's as good as I can get that. It's just not a particularly nice copy of that one, so you won't be going for much, maybe £1, sadly. Lovely. Cracking on then, No Other White Men. Alright, I'll stick them over there so you can have a little look while we're doing the next one, North After Seals. Okay. Storm Along. Evesham. That's where this one came from. Put 1 and 6 up here in the corner. Starlight. H. Mortimer Batten. Don't you know? Cirencester is where this one came from. Come on, open up. Open up, god damn you. Right, David goes to Zululand. Does he indeed? Apparently. Quite a thin little one. Do you want to take off some of the cover there? So hopefully that will keep that a little bit in place. Lost a tiny bit there. Let's put that glue back in. Still better than having tape on it, in my opinion. Green Tree Downs. It's absolutely fine. Another one I don't really remember. Some of these I don't remember these. I thought I remembered most of these, but there's a few I don't. It's another one which hasn't got any marks in it at all, that one. Weird, isn't it? We'll Meet in England. Another one that's a little bit the worse for wear, in all honesty. In fact, it's detached. So we can re-glue that though, that's the good thing. This should glue back in quite easily, in all honesty. There is actually a bit of tape at the top here as well. I didn't even spot that. So yeah, we've got it looking as good as we can get it now. We all meet in England. Okay, that's that one. Okay, I'd say we're over halfway easily. Because some of them like that don't need a lot of work, do they? Others considerably more. Wanderings of Mumphy, eh? It's quite nice, wasn't it? With the colour illustrations as well. Just coming away a little bit. I think that's probably why Alan taped it. That's it. Just hold it there. A slither of glue in there, that'll be enough. Someone's penciled in the author's name and coloured it in pencil when they were bored. But once again, we've soon sorted that out. There we are. We've got a had to do a bit of a number on that one, but there you go. Little Women. Didn't we do one of these earlier? Or am I imagining it? This may be one which is doubled up in the collection, possibly. Not sure exactly. I thought we'd done a Little Women. Got one of those really tricky to reach places. Lovely. The Young Detectives. August '74, Cirencester. It'd be interesting to see if in the later books, if Alan kept writing the place and date where he got them from, because most of the stuff we've seen, I think, as late as 1979. But I wonder if he stopped the practice, when it sort of hit the 80s. I don't know, the 1980s. Who can tell? There we are, the Young Detectives. Nice cover on that one. What's this? Susanna of the Mounties. I'm guessing Canadian fiction. Would be my guess. I need a bit of weight on that to push that down. Mr. Sheridan's Umbrella. 10th of April, 72. Pen. There's the Looking Glass, which I think is a better book because you've got the cover there, and there she is coming through the Looking Glass with like a reverse cover. Yeah, one of my favourite Puffins, this one. It's in pretty nice condition as well. Once again, these editions of Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass had runs of over 100,000, so they're definitely not scarce, but they are just, beautiful editions, that's all. Tomorrow is a new day. Well, it is. St. Anne's, 4th of April, 72. Lovely. Oh, 4p. There we are. Enjoying Paintings. A bit of an unusual choice for a Puffin storybook, don't you think? But we were not on the editorial team at the time, so we don't know their reasoning behind it. But evidently they thought this would make a good Puffin storybook. There's a few of these sort of non-fiction ones, like Going to the Ballet, for example, is a famous one. Another famous one, Noel Stratfield, Ballet Shoes, a modern classic in the world of children's literature nowadays. For young girls. Sadly, it's a bit of a rough old copy, but with foxing and what have you. But when was this published? That's interesting. Doesn't say. Made and printed for Penguin. Yeah. Where's the publishing history? It's not there. It's really weird. Assume it's a first, you know? Who knows? All the books in Alan's collection, in fact, this collection in general, they are all first editions, so we'll definitely assume it's a first. Nice, isn't it? FL3 in the top inside cover, whatever that meant. FL3. You have to wonder if it was like a classroom name, maybe, you know? Hard to tell. Let's slide that pile over there. Children of the New Forest. This is number 50. Looks like a little 1 and 6 in the top corner. There we are. It's as good as we're going to get it. Young Walter Scott. Wish we had a few more which didn't need any work at all. That one's got lots of bent back pages here. It's just not cricket, is it? Golden Island. This one's an ex prize book. The White Riders. Lovely. Oh, another Wurzel Gummidge and Saucy Nancy. Which one is this then? This may be the second or third one. I can't remember. I think it's the third one. I can't even remember. Walter de la Mer. Nice cover on that one. Another nice one. And this one has got tape on the bottom, but it's magic tape. So we're going to leave that on because that'll make a right mess if we try and take that off. And the cover is not bad, really, you know. So yeah, a little bit worn, but it is a complete copy. The Road to Ticonderoga. The Road to Ticonderoga. 31st of March, 73, Andover. Lovely. Family Afloat. Cool. Well, this one looks a bit ropey, in all honesty. The children who lived in a barn. So much tape on this one, you can't believe it. There's one more bit, which has been... Yeah, I can't get it off, so I'm just going to leave it on. There's not a lot that can save that book, in all honesty. It will just be in the £1 to clear box. Fillers, you could say. There we are, Malay Adventure. Thimble Summer. 28th of April, 72. Long ears. Black Beauty. Another kids' classic, you could say, without a shadow of a doubt. Puffin quiz book. Let's see if this has had much done to it inside. I know, it's more like questions in that rather than puzzles. Yeah, that's fine. Hilaire Belloc. Him and his cautionary verses. Lovely. Nice copy of this one. Boy of the Indian Frontier. Landfall Unknown. Elizabeth Fry. Oh, this one's come away. There we are. Lovely. The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Melissa Ann. Last little stack now. And then obviously they're all going to need a brush off. Kidnapped. Robert Louis Stevenson. Lovely. A good one. A good one indeed. Another favourite of mine, just because it's got such a great cover. Really, really nice cover on that one. This is a bit of a rougher copy. Okay. Red Ruff. Another one, very, very dusty. A few of these have been, these must have been stored in quite a dusty little bit of Alan's house over in France, I think. So we may notice that when we do the brush off in a minute. It may be slightly more dusty than some of it. I guess we'll wait and see. Jam tomorrow, eh? Fowl Farm for Christmas. Oh dear, look at that. Oh dear. Yes, the Elm Tree Library. I'm just not going to bother doing anything with that because he's just going to go straight into the to clearance pound, 50p or a pound box, and leave it at that. we just don't have the time, and it just isn't worth it to be trying to rescue books like that. They are literally one step from the bin, so very much just a filler. Here was one of those ones I was telling you about, going to a ballet, or going to the ballet. Sort of the non-fiction ones. And we got Columbus Sales. Queens Flying South. Just about being held together there. South Country Secrets. Oh, another one, that from the Elm Tree Library. Treasure Island. The circus is going. Is it? Yeah, apparently. It's funny, when I looked through these briefly when I was packing them up, they didn't look as bad as they proved to be, you know, with so much work involved in actually getting them looking respectable. Last one here, it's a B format, the Puffin Songbook. But I am pleased that we've been through them, but at the same time, I'm a little disappointed with some of the conditions of them. They are some of them a little bit the worse for wear. But worth it to somebody, I'm sure. So our next step then is to give these a really good brushing as best we can. So we'll start off with that now. Lovely. Right, so the final stage of the process, the familiar brush. It has to be done. As I said, I suspect some of this collection was actually stored in not too great a spot, and they did get a little bit dusty. Just some of it. Seen on the back of this one. The price was penciled out. So it was, as they say, a running repair. Which we do round here, you know. too bad. So the next batch I'm going to be doing, maybe not in the order that you watch these videos, but the next batch I'm going to be doing myself will be another 100 of the main series, and it'll be finally the post 1000. So I'm going to clean and brush them the same way that we've been doing, but then I'm going to bring down my 50% collection of those books, and I'm going to compare them and also add to the collection as we go along. So I'm going to do a little bit of research first to make sure that all the numbers were issued and none of them were like any odd overseas releases, which we do get now and again with these. And then I'll do the comparison, which is what I think a lot of people were looking for, is where I'll actually size up the copies side by side to choose the best one to go in my own personal collection. And then the lower grade one will be what I end up selling on or offering to other collectors. And I have had a lot of wants lists come through already. So if you'd like anything that you've seen or there's stuff that you'd like to get hold of, if you send me a wants list of what you're after, I can come back to you with what I may have spare. And I'll deal with those in the order that they've come in. I've still yet to film my next bagging video, which is going to be Pan Books. That is definitely on the horizon. Just got to work it into the routine. You know how it is. We are very, very busy, as you know. But if you've made it to the end, thanks very much for watching. I've said it many times, but if you've not already, do please subscribe. If you really like the content, you can support the channel by going to patreon.com and signing up there for a monthly contribution of £1 or more if you wish. But £1 would be lovely. You can also do that right here on YouTube under my main channel. There's YouTube memberships. And you can also leave a super thanks should you desire. Yes, thank you very much for watching today. I will be back again in another 7 days with some more Penguin books. We have many, many more to go. So I shall look forward to seeing you again then. Bye.